Welcome to the CE Pro podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. We're stretching our bounds a bit this week for another special Industry's Got Talent edition. There are all sorts of benefits that people get from the regular practice of yoga, and another that's happened during the pandemic is some AV industry bonding. Founded by marketing maven Katye Bennett of K&B Communications, the AV Yoga Club has helped participants with their work-life balance since it launched last spring. CE Pro's Bob Archer sat in on a recent class to learn more about how this group of women in the industry is making deeper connections with one another.
Hi, I'm Bob Archer. I'm with CE Pro Magazine. And today, for this CE Pro podcast, Industry's Got Talent, I am talking to the AV Yoga Group. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
These amazing ladies gather weekly and train or practice yoga. And they find a number of mental and physical benefits to the practice of yoga. How you doing, everyone?
Doing great.
Doing
Great.
great.
Okay. All right, let's get right into this. How long has the group been practicing yoga together, and how did this all start?
All right, I'll take that one. So we got started, AV Yoga, I think started right around middle of April, right as the pandemic was kind of crunching down. And at that point, it was a pretty small group. It was just Jamie Briesmeister, Heather Sidorowitz, and myself. We slowly added in the KMB team over time. By the end of summer, I think we had about 10. And as we sit here today, there are 34 AV gals on the list. Woo!
Yay! It's been
All
a
right.
lifeline. During the pandemic, as it started, and no one could see each other, and there was no connection. I mean, I'm so grateful, and we feel so blessed that Katye started this, and that we got to meet Maddie, who's this amazing human being. And now we have a girl gang, and I've been in this business for 19 years, and that never existed for me until this year.
Yeah.
That's, excuse me, I'll say that's saying something, considering it's a highly male-dominated industry, to say that you have like this girl gang within the industry.
Yeah, it is. And I forget who first came up with that. I think it might have been Heather. But yeah, there's Maddie, jump in here. As we learned early on, the universal sign of femininity is a downward triangle, and so that sort of became our girl gang sign. And it was kind of funny with that. The first time I think we were all just rolling on the floor. It was just like, girl gang, yay! But the story that unfolded from there, and what's really interesting is what you don't realize when you're part of an industry and you see each other once or twice a year at trade shows, and you're like, hey, hi, oh my God, you're so cool, you're doing all the cool stuff, you're always hanging out with the cool kids. And then later on you realize that person doesn't necessarily feel that way, but just having that little split second of time when you actually get to see and sort of and hang out and have that little bloop of a moment, but you never really realize what's going on in that person's life after the fact. What we've all learned together on the mat this year is that there's a whole lot more going on in every one of our lives, obviously around the world, but this one time of the week for this one sacred hour, all of that disappears. And we're just a group of gals enjoying the experience together and growing and learning, and there's no judge. And I think that more than anything has been the thing that's really sort of taken this to a whole nother level. I don't know what you guys think, but that's how
I agree with that, Katye. I remember we were talking during April about PR and talking about the AV connections that we have, and you invited me to join the group because I was feeling really low actually at that time. It was lockdown had just started. We'd been sort of 6 weeks into it. We'd been put on hold by a bunch of clients. We'd got projects that were ongoing, and it was a really low point of it's stressful, don't know what to do. And we started practicing. I started, joined the group towards the end of April. And then there was just this regular connection with people that are going through similar but different stresses. Most of us, locked onto a laptop or a computer all day long, all week long, not seeing people. And this really sort of gave an anchor to the week, even if for one reason or other we would miss a week. it didn't really matter, because you just, it's like those friendships that you have and you don't see somebody for a year and then you just pick up again. And it was like that, really. It didn't matter if you missed a couple of weeks. It was a really comfortable space to come back into. So I found that anyway. Found it really useful.
So it's pretty safe to say, it sounds like that all of you look forward to these yoga meetings every week. What value does it provide in your lives? If you could try to specify that value, or what it does for you.
I'll take this one. So I've been, so I have my Wednesday sessions with these amazing women. And then I've also been meeting with Maddie on Monday mornings. And what a great start to the week that is. I had some, Mondays are always kind of weird. And there've been a couple that I knew I had to have difficult conversations. I knew I had to, eat a frog, which is like do something you really don't want to do, right? Like there were a few Mondays they came around and I would sit with Maddie and I'm like, okay, well, this hurts and that hurts. She's like, okay, but what do you need inside? I'm like, grace. I'm going to have very difficult conversations. I'm going to have to be very particular with my words so I come off the way I want to come off, and I need grace. And working through that and kind of having that intention that first hour of the day kind of does set the tone for the day and the week. And then there's been some other just tricks that she's taught us about breathing. There's one where you kind of breathe alternately through your nasal passages to calm yourself down and change the fight or flight response. And sorry, I'm trying to make better lighting here. And I've used that in my daily life. Like when things get bad and I need like 30 seconds of chill out time, I've gone in my pantry and like breathing alternately through my nose to break the fight or flight, to calm the body, to go back out into the world and make dinner in a friendly way and not be a crazy mom. It definitely infiltrates life if you let it. I mean, that's part of it too.
Bob, we were kind of talking about the breathing routines this morning, and you were commenting. So now we get to pull you into the interview, Bob. You were talking about it on the karate and the jiu-jitsu side as well, and how your instructors walk you through that and make that part of your practice too, which I think is pretty cool, because it isn't, for everybody listening, it isn't just a yoga thing. Kind of paying attention to your breathing really can bring you down off the fence. It's certainly, I was sharing with Bob earlier, but it's the thing that got me to successfully get to and from the podium at CDXO 2 years ago. I'm terrified of speaking in front of people, and just some breathing techniques and about 5 weeks of yoga before got me there and got me to the other side without collapsing. So highly recommend it.
Yeah, there's a technique that I use. The Japanese call it ibuki breathing, and I learned it through karate. And if I get overwhelmed, I'll step aside. And it comes with a kata that what I was talking about before, and it does calm me down. I forget about what's going on, and I can kind of reset myself.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think one of the things that I like is the intention. When she mentioned you have an intention, it's not a goal, and we live in goals because we are all in business, in different kind of business, but it's business, and we always have a goal, and you're supposed to get this or that. But when you make an intention, the way you do it at yoga, you do it from your heart. You do it, maybe something you need, maybe your neighbor needed, maybe your family needed. And I don't think we do that very often in our busy life, because we don't think about it. And I think with this pandemic, one of the things that has changed the world, including when you go outside, is the intention. Maybe you help somebody else, or you let the person go first online, or maybe somebody forgot the mask and you have an extra mask, either if it's a stranger. And now when you make an intention today or any day you make yoga, it's at the end, you rephrase that intention. She always makes us remember that intention. So when you finish, I think it's a really good feeling overall, sharing with everyone, I think. So it's one of the things I like.
Thanks for sharing that, Patty. That's going to be one of the things that I mentioned as well, is what do I value from my practice? I've been practicing consistently for over 10 years now and teaching for about 7. And I think that that's one of the things that stuck with me from the very beginning, is the instructor that I worked with always had us set an intention. And like you said, whether it's work or life, there's just so many expectations. There's so many goals that are set for us, whether it's you go to school and then you do this and then you do that, you get a job, and it's just very planned. And so to just allow for freedom in your practice, whether that's just an hour a day or 20 minutes a day or whatever you have to spare, to just be in a heart space versus head space, just bring it down here and center yourself around that intention that not only is going to benefit you, but is going to benefit your community and the people that you love and the people that you care about around you. Because like Patty said, at the end, I like to bring that intention back up, because it may have changed. It may have taken a new route, and you may leave your mat with an intention that you are now taking with you to help somebody else, or that you now take action in a different way in your life, whether that's having a difficult conversation with an employee or cooking dinner for the kids. You now can find that intention within yourself to do it in the best way possible, to be your best self. And so, yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Patty.
Yeah, and for me, I guess it goes back to all the balance that he brings. And I think Heather mentioned earlier, like all of us working in the industry for so long. And, we sometimes forget that we're constantly trying to appease, or we're trying to fit certain expectations, but we still have other roles to fill in within our society and our families. And besides being amazing business women that we are, in an industry that demands and expects so much of us nowadays. So I think that balance that Maddie asks us and brings it in the intention every day has helped us not only connect with each other, because we have found that that's what's in common with us. I think we all have that eagerness, we have all that passion, outside the industry. And I think it's has brought it back home to bring that balance, that to remember that it's okay that I forgot to do this with my child today, or that I missed a deadline for work, and it's gonna be okay, because that balance goes back to myself, and I am the one that is in control. And as long as that intention is out there, I can fulfill what my mission for that day is. So I think it encircles it back, and he brings it back to that balance, having that intention, like, in business world, like Patty said, so we call it a goal, but we have that intention, it was there. But it's okay to sometimes miss, because it brings us back to who we are.
I'll throw in there. Oh, go ahead, Wendy.
I find it very grounding, just taking a bit of time out of the madness that is our daily lives these days, and the balance of everything. But also the additional thing I found is a few weeks ago, my son actually got taken in for emergency surgery, and this group, I obviously emailed everyone to say, sorry, I'm not going to be coming in and or joining the group that night because of what was happening with my son. And the support I got from this group as well was phenomenal in terms of asking me how he was and how I was doing, and just sort of reaching out to me personally. So I very much see this as a support group for me as well, with everything that's going on with life.
That's what I was going to say, the community piece of it, the connection piece. Like these are people I've seen at trade shows. They're superstars. I've been intimidated by them. I've been, maybe I get to say hi and we would exchange a few words, but now I feel that they're allies. And if I did need them in any pinch, we'd all be there for each other. Just, as Wendy just expressed, it's, as I said, it's this girl gang that never existed. And this is my 19th year in the industry. And I'm thrilled to know, I get to say like, oh, Jamie Breezemeister, I'm friends with her. Oh, Kat Wheeler, I know her.
That floored me when you said that too. Like that's, and because Heather had shared, if I can, Heather, she shared that she travels oftentimes alone, right? Or you're like certainly one of the only women in your company that goes to these. And she'd go back to her hotel room at the end of the night. And I'm like, that's insanity. I mean, I travel with my husband, so he and I are always together, and I normally bring some people with me, but I would have totally, like, knowing that, like, we're gonna party it up. Like, you're never gonna sleep well ever again.
She will
I
never
can't
be
wait.
alone at a show ever again.
But the other thing is the pandemic's been a perfect excuse because Heather and Jamie and myself over the past few years at CEDIA board meetings have always said, oh, it'd be lovely to be able to do yoga together. And here we are. COVID has given us that opportunity. Thanks to Katie, our fearless leader.
COVID silver lining.
Yeah.
And what's
Yeah.
funny about
Yeah,
that,
I
is when
agree
you
with
guys
it.
tell that story, is that you're like, we've got to get together at one of these trade shows or one of these events, and we've got to do yoga together. And the year when all of that went away was the year that figment, that notion, that concept you guys have been tossing around for years came true. And I just think that's so cool.
Actually, that might be one of the things that
Crazy.
COVID did positive for us, right? Is it all of a sudden it was okay to be more than just the person you are at work and to bring your personal life into work, because we're all doing it from our homes for the most part. So how beautiful that it caused everyone to take a step back and actually do something together that is networking. Like, this is a beautiful source of networking, but yet an opportunity to breathe and relax and to push the deadlines aside for literally 1 hour a week. That shouldn't be a big deal. And yet before, March of last year, I just don't see that ever being possible. So that's a pretty fantastic thing from a very negative year.
I think that's the side benefit
Yeah,
of
I
doing
was just going to
something
add,
like.
I think that,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, you're okay. Go ahead, Bon.
I was going to say, having done the CE Pro band, working with those guys, there's a bond between us that whenever I see Dave, say Dave Silken or Tim Bergonis or whoever it might be, Vince from Certain Specs, it's like, hey, how you doing? We have this bond because we rehearse these songs together. We get up and we put ourselves out there, and that bond is unique for us because it's only this handful of people that have done it before.
It's a really nice shared experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is.
And you can just go straight into it. It's lovely. Mm.
Yeah, I was going to say the
Each
same thing.
other's pets as well. That's the other thing off yoga. We know each other's pets because they all join in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of amazing that we've all been able to dedicate like the time once a week, right in the middle of the week, when sometimes it can be at the craziest, like on a Wednesday, it's across time zones. And I was going to say the same thing, like the shared experience, like we've worked, I think a lot of us outside of this individually on different aspects for business, but like to have something that is a different sort of experience that builds relationships in a different way. And I definitely think the individuals on this call, like, I don't know that we would have done this every week, seeing your faces and, just catching up a little bit before and after, but going through like the self-practice in a shared community is amazing. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Everybody's always talking about, bring your true authentic self to something, and and it's in a work setting, it's kind of like, sorry, what do you mean by that? But actually practicing yoga with you guys, it doesn't get more human and real than this. I'm not as bendy as everybody else, or you go through all of those emotions and feelings, and it's okay. It's really, I think that's been a real eye-opener, actually, and it's sort of helped in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
I think
I'll
I think for me, it's just really inspiring. The women on this call and in this group are business owners. They're CEDIA board members, present or past, and they are, women in CT award winners, and they're women that are extremely inspiring. And, I've been in this industry for 18 years now, working, primarily with men. So it's really nice to be able to be around these common women, or this quality of women, and be able to spend time with them.
I was going to say, I agree with Kat right there, because I've been in the industry for 15 years and I haven't had a chance to spend this much time with a wonderful group and have this connection with some AV women. And I was going to say, Carolyn was so kind. She reached out to me and we had a coffee date, which was amazing because I work from home now. So I don't have coworkers or this connection I used to when I would go into an office. So just doing that on the side was just wonderful. It meant the world to me, honestly.
I think the other thing is I remember being on a call with Vanessa, and it was the first time I'd actually spoken to Vanessa. It was Patty, myself, and Vanessa having a call. And just through the start of the conversation, I thought, I think Vanessa would be a good one to add to our group, and invited her along, and she's becoming ever since. And if you hadn't come to this group, it probably would have been a while before we actually got to meet each other as such face to face, albeit virtually. But yeah, it's been great to bring us together and form these relationships either as a group or individually beyond that as well.
Okay, if this may be my ignorance, when believe me, I have a lot of that, but is yoga an activity that you get better at, like playing music or playing sports or something like that? Over time, does it become easier on your body?
I'm very inflexible. And I feel like, even though I've done yoga at past experiences, but and I always laugh, Katie takes pictures of us and I look at myself, I'm like, oh my gosh. But I do get flexible to do some of the moves, advanced moves that Maddie talks about, where she's like, I mean, I still can't do most of them, but you do start to push yourself. And I think you can get better.
And the key, I think, is to feel comfortable. Like once you find a group that you feel comfortable being who you are, and I think that's what's happening now. At the beginning, we were all a little nervous, like how am I going to look in camera? Because this is a new platform, right? I think having a virtual yoga class or virtual anything. So I think at first, at least for me, I know I was a little nervous. I'm like, how do I look? How's my tricep looking from that, angle? And I mean, it gets to the point that I think we are so comfortable with each other, and we start finding that in common intention, like Patty was saying, or the balance. And Maddie is amazing at bringing us together constantly, because I think we all have in common that our brains are going like 100,000 miles per hour. And she's able to bring that in. So yes, I mean, just from the mind perspective, she has done amazing. And I know, at least for me, I have improved significantly. And body-wise, I mean, physically, I think it's something that it's getting better and better. I'm not the yogi, but I can feel it in my body, and it's just, it's a lot of fun.
Vanessa, you are a yogi. You're here. You absolutely are a yogi. Love thyself, lady. Love it. That's why they call it a practice.
I was going to say that too. We're all yogis. All you have to do is practice yoga once to be a yogi.
Yes.
I'd like to expand on that a little bit.
Good. I was just going to ask you, jump in and talk through sort of that whole dynamic, because there's a lot going on there.
There is. That exactly was what I was thinking when I thought about this question. I thought, yes, you absolutely can get better in yoga. But as I said to you earlier, there's no bad in yoga either. So it's not like you're starting from a bad point and getting to a good point. It's all within yourself, So this practice, they say, is from the self, through the self, to the self. So ultimately, if you can find comfort and stillness within each posture, then you've reached that for you. You've reached that moment where you are your best. You're your best in that moment because you can be still in that moment. And that's what we're ultimately looking for in our practice, is to find that stillness, body, mind, and soul within each posture. And thus that carries into our life and it becomes a lifestyle. And so, yes, absolutely. You can physically become better, and you can do a posture in a few weeks that maybe you couldn't do a few weeks ago, right? But also it's like within yourself, what is better for you? Because better for you might be different than better for your neighbor. And so finding what your intentions are versus a goal. Like, I'm going to do a handstand and I'm going to hold it for 1 minute, like maybe, but maybe not. And if you don't ever get there, that's okay too. doesn't mean that you're not good at yoga. It doesn't mean that you haven't bettered yourself. It doesn't mean that you haven't gotten to your place of stillness. And so it just looks different for everybody. So that's something I wanted to just add.
I would agree with that. I'd also say one of the things is that you're teaching me sort of quite regularly is, you know, the business about forgiving yourself. It's okay not to be perfect. It's okay for it not to work out. And I think that this past year has been, you know, stressful. Good things have happened, but challenging things have happened. And there's a lot of, am I trying hard enough? Have I done everything that I should have done? Should I have done this, that, and the other? That's a constant whirl going on, I think, in our world. And this practice, you know, Maddie always kind of brings that no judgment, forgive yourself, you're the best that you know, and she reinforces that every week. And I think that's building and very valuable.
Right. It's about what is it for you today, right? Like I was mentioning earlier. So each day is going to be different. And oftentimes the left and right side of your body is different. So you can't hold the same, you know, expectation of that side of your body as you can with the other side. Just as you can't, maybe today you have those difficult conversations with your employees, you might find that your balance is off today, but that doesn't mean that your physical body can't balance and that you can't be completely strong in that posture. It just means that today, maybe there's other factors that are coming into play that are causing your practice to look different. And so that's okay. So what's better for you today? What's better for you tomorrow? You know, it's just going to change. That was beautiful. Thanks, Tanya.
I think it's just kind of comical. Some days you can show up and you can just nail a posture and have beautiful balance. Like once a year that happens for me, and then the next week you can show up and it's like, oh, blah, 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 you know, and there are literally days where I can't stand on one leg to save myself, and then the very next week I could stand there, do a meeting, take a phone call, and probably file my nails. You know, it's
I'll send us a nice video of you doing some pose on the snowy deck that we're all like, hooray, wow.
Yeah.
I think that also depends on how much wine you drink the night before. Sometimes that the balance too. Just saying.
Directly correlated.
Gotta be real.
I think one of my favorite parts of what yoga teaches you is how all of that is connected. So the days that you have really crappy balance usually can tie back to life isn't going so well, bad day at work, whatever that is. And that yoga never ends. There's no like, hey, I got there. Hey, I made it, because there's always this other next thing you could do. There's always a next wave. I love that. I love that it's taught me that my breath can help me through pain, which can also help me through a really tough phone call. I love that, you know, sometimes yoga can remind me about maybe my life is off kilter and that's why I can't stand on one leg. All of that stuff is all interconnected. I love that my hip might really hurt, but it's because my other knee, there's something wrong with it. And then when you stretch and you're in some pose, you're like, whoa, why is the pain coming from this area when this is what's hurting me? It's all interconnected. And I love that I get to share that with all of you.
Okay, we've kind of alluded to this or maybe danced around it. We certainly talked about it. Do you think the mental component to yoga is overlooked versus the physical benefits of it?
Oftentimes, yes.
Yeah.
I think most people come to yoga for the physical benefits, and then all of a sudden they realize, wow, my mind feels a lot clearer. I don't feel as stressed out. What's going on? And so the more you do it, the more you reap the mental benefits and the more you connect with it. And then you start to go to it for that and barely even do it. Like sometimes I'll just lay on my mat in certain positions and I'm not doing anything that looks impressive at all, but I'm getting the same type of mental benefit.
Yes, absolutely. That was exactly what I was going to say, that oftentimes, and especially I would say in Western states here, some things have been slightly lost or maybe downplayed a little bit, and the physical side has been upplayed, which is great. Yoga has lots of physical benefits and it's an amazing exercise for your body. But the mind part naturally just comes with it. And that's the best part, is that even if you're not coming to the mat to find more balance mentally or to clear your mind or any of those wonderful things that come with it, to find that stillness, you're still going to eventually get there. The practice just does it. It's its natural flow. It'll start to just bring you to this place where thoughts just kind of move out of the way and you find yourself in this more centered way of being. And that then the more you practice starts to carry off of your mat, and all of a sudden you find, wow, I'm in a really difficult conversation right now. Look how centered I am. Look how great I feel. Look how I'm handling this. And you start to just see it, whether you are intending for it to do that or not, it will do that. And you start to see it in all ways.
Maddie, I completely agree. And we were saying earlier that sometimes you'll do yoga and you'll have a really good session physically, and sometimes you'll feel less able. But the one thing I always take away was the thing I was referring to earlier, the grounding. I come into it and I'm always rushing to come to the session, and I'm thinking about 30 different things and things I haven't done and things I've got to do after the session. Although generally it's time to go to bed here. But yeah, at the end of it, I just feel that stillness, both physically through the exercise I've done, but actually for me, more than that, stillness of the mind. And I just feel that I'm a little more able to cope with what's ahead of me.
Yeah. Have any of you, one of the things like that virtual yoga, I think, offers us is the ability for us to be very private about the noises we're making and, the grunts maybe that we have if it's a tough pose. But there have definitely been a couple of sessions where I've cried. There's something that she said, a releasing of energy, stress, whatever, the anniversary of a friend that passed, things that you're kind of holding on to, that like a thought, something comes through and it's the waterworks. And that's nice to be able to do at home in the privacy of our own, because I don't know if I would let myself do that in a room full of people, a room full of these people maybe, but not like if I went to yoga, somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Jamie. You've all seen me yawning and, making the most gurney faces, but I absolutely have had quite regularly been finding that I've been wiping my eyes because it just unblocks some emotional something or other. And it's like having when you go and have a really good massage and they get that knot out and suddenly you're crying. It's the same thing, but in a different way. And it's been odd, but it's been good.
Yeah, Maddie will often say, and whatever's not serving you in this moment, just let it go. And that I probably have repeated that about 5,289 times every day for the past year, at least. It's something I've had to ingrain in my brain because Katye does not let things go. And what I realized was that every negative thing, it was like that Lego stack, and I just kept putting one more negative on, one more negative on, one more negative on, and I wasn't letting anything go. And I'm a migraine gal as well, and that's my Achilles heel. And I realized when I get really stressed I just pile too much onto my psyche, and that I start to get a splitting migraine. I can't think straight. And so when Maddie started to put this into our practice and repeat it, it was like, that's the thing that I probably need to take away from the mat more than anything else, is just, if it's not serving me, let that bloop go. And I don't know, girls, everybody else with me on this, and we're learning to let it go here.
Yeah.
I think too, we're girls in a very male dominated industry. Not that that's a bad thing, because our guys are nerdy and awesome, but we don't often get the opportunity and the chance to think words like cry or emotion or family, and that the pandemic's changed some of that, because I love that piece of it. But there's also a component of yes, like we still feel things. I remember I had a yoga teacher once say, if you made a list of all the things you loved, where would you put yourself? And I almost lost it, because I was like, shoot, I don't know where I would. And so it reminds us that self-love, taking care of ourselves, putting ourselves first, is not selfish. It's necessary, because if we don't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of our kids. We can't run a company. We can't kick ass. it's a bit of a comeback to what I think that we were meant to be in nature, but has kind of been driven apart by society.
What about that meditation that Maddie shared with us a few weeks ago, and where I think we're all in a very different place, but at the same time we were there. And she shared that meditation where the only person that can change anything in your world is that reflection in that mirror. And I was just like, you know, just the whole meditation. And I can tell, I couldn't hear anybody else, but I could tell, like at that moment, that I was just not alone on how that meditation affected me, because I'm sure like it affected everybody in different ways, but at the same time, emotionally in the same way. So it was just a few weeks ago, I think that we had that going on, and it was just amazing how at the end of it, we were all like eyes swollen and like.
We were. It was so funny, and at the end of it, and this is the thing, is even though we're together in this room, it's not like we're all, you know, on this where we're looking at each other. You're practicing, you're doing your own thing, so you really aren't paying too much attention to what's going on to the screen. But at the very end, as we come out of that, and it's like, oh, here, I'm wiping our eyes, and whew, and Maddie, I think that was the Poetry Slam version. I'm pretty sure that was the one, and how crazy that was the content, and it was just amazing. It made you laugh and cry all at once.
Yeah, and also, you know, like on this class, she always says, don't forget the class, is there anything you need? I mean, she always say anything. Is there anything you need? I mean, in few words, anything, like anything. And it's like, no, it's fine, it's fine. Suddenly, when you start reading or she start the class, it's like, oh, that's true, I need that. Oh, that's true, I need that. That's true, I need. Yeah. Suddenly, what we have learned is we never say what we want, or sometimes we don't say what we need, because it's just, I mean, I honor to be in the class, or I honor to be in the meeting, or I honor to be here, I'm fine. But this is, yoga is a place that is for you, it's for us, it's a spiritual, it's a strength, but it's a spiritual too. And we can say anything we want, anything we need. They're asking us, what would you like? And there is not many times that you say, what could you like, right? All the time. And sometimes I feel like, God, she's asking every time, and it's true. It hurts my neck, it hurts this. And, you know, it just, I don't know if it's a habit or what, but that's something I think it's really nice to feel that open door and share it. I think it's a growing part of us, I think,
Bob, you're probably getting a sense that we quite value this club.
I do, and it's inspiring. It really is, because you're getting so much value out of it, mentally, physically, emotionally, and to find something like that, particularly during these times. You know, we've talked about the pandemic and whatnot. You guys to be able to pull this together and have some kind of like human interaction during these times, even though you're in various parts literally of the world. It's amazing, and you're finding ways to better yourselves and enrich your lives. I can't see any negative with any of that.
No, it's all positive all the time. It's a beautiful thing.
Kind of dovetailing off of that, let me ask, doing the yoga, do you find that it leads to a healthier lifestyle? I'll say, from my background, I found that doing martial arts has made me more aware of what I eat and sleep and all that stuff. So I try to lead a healthier lifestyle. Do you find yoga provides that same level of inspiration for you?
I think for me, it's like the things you don't think you need. So we're all in business, but we're all very connected. So being able to put my phone away, and at the end, how I feel at the end of yoga, and making myself remind myself to be disconnected for a little while and take that step back, and that's okay, has been really beneficial for me.
I think for me, it's been a continuity of a lifestyle. Like, so it's been already 7 months that my family and I have been into plant-based diet. And I totally feel the benefits. And I gotta tell you, for my husband, he's a big grilling guy, and it was tough for him more than for anybody else. But yeah, I mean, it's been great. I mean, the benefits in my body, and I can feel it, and they all go in sync with practicing on Wednesdays. And especially this year, I try to make the effort of making sure that I make my Wednesday class, because that's my me time. And so again, it's that continuity of a better health style. And even for my 11-year-old, like she's gone vegetarian right now. But again, she's practiced karate for so long, so she's more in sync with her body than probably I am. So yeah, it's that full circle for me, and trying to be better. I'm not giving up my wine. I don't care what anybody says, because that's part of my sanity. But yes.
It's fruit, Vanessa, it's fruit.
Well, it is fruit. There you go. Thank you.
And it's loaded with antioxidants and free radical fighting mega boosters. So wine is good.
I think for me, I've noticed, Bob, that it's actually a little more that, I don't know that it intentionally changes the way that you eat and approach wellness in general, but I know I can feel the toxins when my body is saying what you did yesterday or what you ate this morning or what maybe you didn't eat, because let's face it, we're all so busy all the time that sometimes it's that you aren't stopping enough to drink enough water and hydrate and feed your being. And so I can feel it through how my body responds, and, picking up on what we're saying about how every practice is different and every day is different. A lot of that is having to do with what's going on in your body elsewhere. So I think it brings it to your attention if you aren't taking care of yourself, and maybe just subconsciously forces you to take care of yourself and to make changes without even realizing that that's the reason.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a big reason that happens is just the awareness that we're always bringing to the self throughout practice. That's what we always come back to, right? Just awareness. Because my yoga instructor, I like to call him my guru, he always said that yoga is your direct experience. So if yoga is your direct experience, if you're experiencing yourself here and now in the moment, and you're able to let everything else go, then that's all that there is. And within that, how do you feel? How do I feel physically? How do I feel mentally? And when you can tune into that on a daily basis and on a regular basis throughout life, not just on your mat, all of a sudden you're aware of everything. Well, how did that make me feel when I ate that? Maybe I won't do that again, or I won't eat so much, or I won't eat 6 cookies, I'll eat 2 cookies, whatever. So it starts to bleed into your awareness of everything that you do, whether that's physical or what you're putting in your body or mental. I mean, in a huge way too, I feel like I've taken that awareness and that knowing that I'm perfectly imperfect, right? So everything is just as it is when it needs to be. And I still am working on it. It's a practice. Still, I still have challenges. I still have days where that's hard for me. But for the most part, I know that I'm here for a reason. And so how can I be okay with even the moments that don't feel good? How can I be okay with, okay, I just ate this huge burger and fries, and maybe I'm not going to feel awesome from it. But you know what? In that moment, like, it felt good, and I'm enjoying my company, and I'm enjoying the ambiance of where I am, and that feels good to me right now. So making those choices in an aware, mindful manner, whether they might feel good or not, and you know what you're doing to yourself and for yourself. And so you move forward in that way more often.
Yeah. And I think it also, it makes you keenly aware of what you eat, what you drink, and the quantities of either or both that you decide to provide yourself. And some days it can be a little brutal on the mat, and you're just like, oh man, you can feel it in your gut, and it's just, things just are moving, and just, it doesn't feel great. And other days when you realize that you've fed yourself well, you've fueled yourself well, and you get on the mat and sort of, magic happens. And I think, at least for me, I've realized on those days when I actually make that connection, that does stay with me for a while. I have to continue to remind myself of that, though, because it is so easy to grab. I do have a wicked sweet tooth, so it's like the little candies here or there, the little chocolate bits or the cookies. I have a really hard time saying no to those. My excuse for that is, as long as I continue to practice and I've put some effort into yoga, then those treats are okay, and that's kind of that balance. And I'm really big on balance. I appreciate my snacks and my wine and my food, but I have to have the balance in order to keep that off and to sort of keep functional. So I do think that there's a strong play with mind and body in this as well.
As I said earlier as well, there is that element of teaching you to forgive yourself. So when you have those days that you are indulgent or you go a little bit overboard and you feel guilty afterwards, there is that element of through the yoga practice, you teach yourself forgiveness.
Yeah. The Katye, I think you said it earlier, one of Maddie's sayings, a letting go of that which doesn't serve you. That fits in so many ways in life. Like, I have a lot of negative self-talk, so that does not serve me. And to acknowledge when it's happening and consciously go, I need to let that go. That's not serving me. And it just kind of frees up what else could be. Maybe it's wanting a cocktail at 3 and saying, that's not going to serve me well. I'll wait until after I'm done with everything. Or choosing to eat burger because that's going to serve me because I did everything else I needed to do and I feel like I really want that burger, and having that be okay. Like, I think as we put a lot of pressures maybe on ourselves as women to be and look a certain way, I think society itself also adds to that too. And yet when we can let go of that which isn't serving us as humans, then we can be more free and happy. And I know that's been helpful. That's what yoga has brought to me, for sure.
My next question is kind of directed at Maddie. Maddie, if someone is interested in trying yoga, say they don't have the time to participate in you guys' weekly get-together, what should they look for from a yoga studio in their local environment, their local area to frequent?
Good question. So first, I would say to go into that without expectation once again. So finding a yoga instructor is like finding a medication that works for you, right? Sometimes you have to try 5 or 6 because they're all going to be a little bit different and have a different interaction with your makeup, right? And so it's the same thing with a yoga teacher. Oftentimes you may go to a yoga studio and they have 5 or 6 different yoga instructors. And so I would recommend, first of all, to find a studio, do some research online, look at maybe their about page, see what they kind of talk about, what styles of yoga do they have, are they focused on a mindful practice, is it more of a physical practice, are they bringing all 3 together, mind, body, and soul, and what are you looking for, and then just start somewhere. Start at that studio that maybe the picture of the studio caught your eye and you're like, that looks like a space I could really ground into. Go there, see how it feels, and try different teachers. Always try different people, because so many people get stuck. And I actually find this with myself at the studio. I own a studio here in Red Lodge, Montana, and people are like, I can't go to one of your other instructors. I just like your classes. But we all have something different and unique to offer, and it might not feel the same, and it might not feel what you prefer all the time, but it might be what you need in that moment. And so try different people out, see what feels good. Are they speaking to your heart? Do you feel like Patty said, everything she's saying is just, she's speaking to me today? I've had that where I walk off my mat and I'm like, did I tell that instructor my life story before I started class? Because it sure felt like it, so just go and try it. It's trial and error. See what it feels like. Did it resonate with your heart? Did it feel good in your body? Did it feel good for your soul? And if it did, go back again. And if it didn't, don't just leave that studio. Maybe try a different class, try a different style of yoga, try a different teacher. And then if you've tried everything and that still doesn't feel good, try a different studio and go through the whole process again, because you're always going to pick up new things and learn different things from different people.
Yeah, I can echo what Maddie's saying too. For someone who's never been to yoga, if you go to one class or one teacher and you don't like it, that doesn't mean you hate yoga. It just may mean you don't like that style of yoga or that teacher. I love yoga. I've been to a number of classes I do not like at all. It just means it's the style, or I wasn't jiving with the instructor. It doesn't mean they're a bad instructor. It just means it wasn't working for me. So yeah, if you don't like, I think there is a yoga for everyone, and there's so many different styles. So it is worth it to try a few different ones. So easy now too, virtual. It's like you have access. That's what I've loved about this time, is I have access to so many teachers that I didn't before. So it's a really easy time to try out a bunch of different styles and teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is my last question. I want to go back to something that we had talked about, or you guys had talked about earlier, and that was the relationships that you guys had developed as a result of participating in the group. How valuable do you think these relationships are to your career as we move forward? Hopefully, you know, we're together in the fall. We can be in Indianapolis at the CEDIA event, and we can see one another in person finally after all these months. Do you think this group will help grow your career in maybe ways you didn't see before?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, like all
Jamie.
networking. Gosh, I mean, Katie and I have had offline conversations that are like, hey, just hang out, we'll have a glass of wine after yoga. And then all of a sudden I'll find she's inviting me on a podcast with a great kitchen and bath designer, and we get to talk about home tech. And then I get to share that locally with my people here and say, look, I'm an industry leader and you should really listen to these things that I'm talking about, because other people want to hear them. You should too, like, you know, hire me, that sort of thing. And that's just, you know, a few times that have happened, but I guarantee, like, I think Vegeta, you were looking for a job earlier, and we were all like, how can we help Vegeta find a job? And does anyone know anything that she would be really good at, or an opening? And oh my gosh, if any of these ladies needed anything ever, I think they could just pop an email to us and say, I'm looking for this. Do you know anyone? Can anyone write a letter of recommendation, or, you know, whatever. On top of the fact that when we do get a chance to see each other in person, I think we'll be like a bunch of little magnets, like trying to group up, you know, and finally like have that in-person thing that we're missing. I'm excited about it. You know, outside of, I mean, my career, I have an integration company in St. Louis, so I'm here. You know, how can this group help me? I mean, we've already done it, and hopefully, Katie, you know, I've added value to what you're doing too. I think there's a lot of fallout with it. Kat wrote a book, and she got to tell us about a book that she wrote. You know, and I think we all bought like first copies of it. You know, I mean, there's just so many cool ways to advance your person and then your career too.
Yeah,
the industry as well, and the representation on this group covers all elements of the industry. We've got the manufacturing side, the distributing side, the integration side, media side, association side, professional services side. I think we cover pretty much the full spectrum of the industry. So the other thing is just the networking with each other, but also reaching out to each other if there's contacts we need. Can you recommend any suggestions? That everyone in this group's become sounding boards, I think, for each other as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Everyday interaction as well. I think you know, there's a few of us that in a daily basis, like if you have a question, hey, how do you typically handle this from the manufacturing or from the rep side? So even like Mary Ellen is not here, but you know, she reaches out, or we talk from time to time. It's like, hey, you know, if you're frustrated, or if there's anything any feedback, let's put it out there. You know, and with Wendy, I'm so happy that you brought me in here, and I've been working with Patty on the CEDIA side with the COI classes. So I think that's just gonna keep on growing. It's just gonna go at a different level, and it's growing even faster, I think, because now we have everything available in front of us. So by the time we get together at CEDIA in Indianapolis, I think everything is just going to be just ready, if not further beyond to what we're planning to. So I think it's the everyday interaction. It's happening already, and all those collaborations, all those plans are already in the cooking per se. And it's just going to be amazing. I think it's going to be a great year. And, you know, given the circumstances, I think it is definitely going to be a good year for all of us and for our industry in general.
Yeah, and I would add too, what's really interesting is the group here today that's on the podcast side is almost entirely residential, but we also have several gals that are over from the commercial side as well. And so, you know, when you're talking about career advancement potential, the way that the industry is merging, converging, we're not going to fight over those words, but you know, there's just the way that we're connecting here give us all the opportunity, as we need a resource, we need a lead on the other side of the fence or somewhere where we don't have the connection. There's somebody in this group that probably has that connection that we need right now, and that's just magical. It's just too cool.
And Katye, isn't it this week that we've been normally hanging out together at ISE?
Yeah. Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're doing
And
good.
that. Yeah, and that, you know, and that's a really good point, because Wendy, that was the only time that you and I saw each other. It's where we met, and it was like every February I knew when I'd see you, and, you know, before the day before the show opened, when all the media stuff was going on, and then we might see each other at the CEDIA party, maybe, but that's always like, you know, that hug and kiss and move on, because there's just so much going on, and we've connected more here on the mat than we have historically. I mean, in the years that we've known each other now, and you know, that's what this thing is all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Bob, we're thrilled that you joined us today. We've only had one other guy join us on the mat, and that was, we did a CEDIA Expo. We did a morning session and an evening session the week. I think it was like the day before the show opened, or it might have been 2 days before. And Ian Bryant from CEDIA, bless his heart, brave man, he came and joined us as well. But since then, we haven't had any men around, and it's been quite nice. So a message out to all of you guys is that while we are a group of women, as AV Yoga is open to all are welcome here. You can join us on the mat anytime. You don't have to be a gal in the industry. Men are welcome too.
Oh, you're muted, Bob.
Muted, Bob.
The men in the industry, certainly, if they were to take part, I think would be inspired by what you guys are doing. It's awesome. I had a lot of fun doing it. It's something I had never tried before, and I had a blast doing it. And I can see the community, the way you guys were speaking about the event, speaking about one another. There is definitely a bond between you.
Yeah, definitely, and it's getting stronger every day. And what's funny about this is it's like now we're on a bit of a roll. So it's like this week 2 people will add 2 people, and then they'll add 2 people, and they'll add 2 people. It's like you come in and you have a session on AV Yoga, and you want to share it with others. And I think, you know, that's really how this has grown, and will continue to. But it's great because we meet somebody new almost every week now.
That's awesome. And then it'll be really awesome for you guys in September to, you know, see one another in person. That'll be really remarkable, thinking about what we've gone through this past year plus. I know locally here, I'm in the greater Boston area, and the first case of COVID was reported this about a year ago. They were saying on the news last night. So, you know, and so, you know, we are into this a year now, and locally they shut the state down back, I want to say the first week of March. And so, you know, by the time we get to CEDIA, who knows what will happen between now and the spring, but for some people, it could be like 14, 16 months of being isolated before we're finally able to gather.
Yeah, but not the way we're doing it.
No. No,
No, I just want to say thanks to all of you guys too, because it's been huge for me throughout this pandemic. My studio has been just closed and I haven't had a group class in a really long time. And I look forward to this. You guys are lighting my week every week, and you have been for almost a year now, which is so amazing to me, because oftentimes people will start something, and then you might peter out of it. And so the fact that you guys have stuck with it and you're there almost every week, it makes my heart feel so full. So thank you to each of you guys for being here.
I think, well, before I let you go, I think, Maddie, that's a big thing too that shouldn't be overlooked by this about this group of women you're here with, is that most people do quit. I see it in martial arts. People want to get whatever, black belt, whatever they want, but most people find it hard for whatever reason and they quit. To stay with it, to persevere, even though you're busy, you've got stresses, you've got career, you got kids and whatnot, to stay with it and stay committed is commendable.
Yeah, it really is. I think like so many of these women expressed, the bond that we've created is a big part of what keeps us coming back to each other. We have a support group now, and I feel that from you guys. I mean, on a different side of things, but personally, I feel it. But my work life, my career, is also entwined in my personal life, and what I do, teaching yoga, I'm very passionate about, as I hope you know, and I feel so fulfilled throughout this time that each of you wants to come here and wants to be back and wants to show up every week for each other and for yourself. So it touches me, and it's just amazing to see you guys coming back to it, and thank you for being a support group to me as well as to yourselves and each other.
I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day, first of all, to allow me to practice with you, and secondly, for hopping on this call with me and talking about yoga and how it benefits you personally and professionally. I want to say to everyone, have a good night and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Join us anytime.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Good night. Namaste.
Namaste.